seasoned competitor and a lawyer and a creative bikini designer. How do you balance your professional responsibilities with your bodybuilding protocols and preps?
To create more time, I've had to learn to become really efficient at things. A lot of the skills from being a lawyer transfer over to running a business and also comp prepping. You learn to manage your time efficiently, like how many hours have I got in the day, blocking out certain things in my calendar, setting reminders, having the non-negotiables and making sure you execute. I'm a goal setter, so I think if I've assigned a goal, I will try and execute and deliver on it.
Welcome back to the Comp Closet podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Moore, and today I am thrilled to have Kelly from Koko Australia Stage Wear with us. She's a seasoned competitor in the IFBB, an ANB pro card holder, and a lawyer, and a creative bikini designer. Kelly, how are you?
Oh my goodness, I sound exhausted. I kind of am. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm really excited for this chat. You have such a fascinating blend of careers and achievements, and everything you do is just incredible. Can you tell us a bit about your journey in the legal field and in bodybuilding and what inspired you to go down these paths?
Okay. With the legal journey, that's probably been about an 18-year work in progress. It's one of those things where when I was a child, a teenager, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And my mum was quite encouraging and saw potential in me and said I should be a lawyer. And we never had any lawyers in the family or anything like that. So I never thought it was something I could do. And then I just sort of went to uni, was going to take a gap year, but ended up going straight into uni and studied law. And what most people do, sensible people, is they do like clerkships whilst they're studying law. I didn't do any of that. I just worked in a bar full time. And I was just more interested in working. I'm a bit of a workaholic. So then by the time I finished uni, everybody else had jobs and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I kind of went traveling. I did my gap year back to front and did a few summers in Spain. And then it was time to grow up. And so then I retrospectively started working at a law firm, but I was volunteering because it was really hard to find work in the UK without that experience. And then I ended up being offered a job eventually and was there for a couple of years and then moved to Australia. So then spent the last 10 years working in Australia in law firms here, and then decided to bridge my UK degree over here. Stupidly did it while I was prepping for my first IFBB show. So I was studying, working full time, prepping for the show, moving house, building the business. So it was a bit nuts. Close to burnout, but not quite. Like I think it takes a lot to kind of break me, but it was close.
Yeah, wow, that is a lot of things to juggle. What inspired you to get into bodybuilding?
I had a sporty background already. I was a runner, netballer, and then I got into F45 when I lived in Sydney, and I loved the weight training component mixed with the HIIT kind of thing, and just seeing the muscle that your body would grow and not, everybody would talk about weight training and looking manly, and it's just not the way it is at all. But I started to see my shape change, and I didn't hate my body as much as I did when I was a teenager growing up. I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. And then I had a friend who became my first coach, Jessie. She competed herself, and I didn't know anything about bodybuilding, but I'd watched her prep other girls and seeing them go from eating basically no calories to eating 3,500 calories and losing weight. And I was like, sign me up. What is this? And so I was like, I want to. So I went to watch Jessie compete first. She did A&B. And I just remember watching the show and being like, okay, this is me. A blend of fitness. I'd done pageants, quite a few pageants by this point, and I had girls that I was alongside competing with in pageants saying, oh, you should do fitness shows. And I was like, what's a fitness show? And then just having the glitz and the glam, but mixed with fitness, I was like, how did I not know this existed? So A&B was like the first thing I've ever experienced. I didn't know there was all these other federations. It was brand new. But I remember watching the show and seeing a few people on stage that really stood out and a few that didn't really know what they were doing or where to put their feet. And I was like, I want to do this and I don't want to look like that, but I want to look like that. So then, yeah, just started on my own journey and did a prep and got up to 3,500 calories and posing every day. And then, yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, amazing. So once you went and watched that first show and decided you wanted to do it, what steps did you take?
So before I committed to the show, I'd saved up for quite a while to make sure I had like $4,000 or $5,000, I think it was, because it's so expensive, as you know. So I wanted to make sure when I was going to do it, I was going to do it properly and not take any shortcuts. So saved up for a coach, had my coach ready, lined up, saved up for my stage wear or making my own stage wear, and booked in my tan, booked in my posing coach, booked in my hair and makeup, and posing and training was something that I did for that entire sort of 6 to 8 month prep, like religiously, because as you know, posing's the hardest part. We can train till the cows come home, but what is this posing malark? Like it's
Yeah.
completely foreign to most of us to begin with, and it's definitely the hardest part.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Posing is so hard. So it sounds like you definitely went about that the right way, finding a coach and then starting that posing straight away as well. I would, yeah, highly recommend that for anyone wanting to get into competing. As soon as you know want to compete, you know you want to compete, find a coach who is good and knows the federation you want to do, and then start posing like straight away. Even if you're just watching videos of other people posing and kind of teaching yourself to start with, like you don't have to get a posing coach straight away, but once you're on prep, I definitely recommend getting a posing coach as well. I'm sure you'd agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. You need to take the thinking out of most things. So for
Yeah.
me, I love having a meal plan. I love having someone tell me what I need to lift and how I need to stand. So I don't have to think when you've got a million things going on. You just need everything to be as simple as possible. And so recruiting people that are better than you, all of those things is the best thing to do. But if you are, on a budget, there's definitely other ways of doing things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how do you balance your professional responsibilities with your bodybuilding protocols and preps?
So my friends would say that I have 27 hours in every day. So it starts with having more time. But to create more time, I've had to learn to become really efficient at things. So a lot of the skills from being a lawyer transfer over to running a business and also comp prepping. So you learn to manage your time efficiently, like how many hours have I got in the day, blocking out certain things in my calendar, setting reminders for when I forget to make sure I commit to things and follow through, and just yeah, having the non-negotiables and making sure you execute. In terms of like how I manage it, I guess um, not everybody's the same, but I just don't really want to have excuses. And I'm a goal setter, so I think if I've assigned a goal, I will try and execute and deliver on it. So yeah, I think that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are really helpful tips. And then talking about your journey through the different federations. So you've experienced competing both in IFBB and ANB. Can you discuss the differences between the two and kind of how it was navigating both federations?
Yeah, A and B, they allow a lot of stage time, a bit of freedom in your posing, a bit of creativity with the costumes, and they had a theme wear round which I am obsessed with. So and One Piece as well. So it had all these categories that I was just naturally drawn to. In terms of IFBB, the look is completely different. So the prep was completely different. I wasn't doing cardio for A and B, whereas doing quite a bit of cardio for IFBB. It's just so much leaner. And then the posing obviously is like the first thing that you notice that's different. Hairs on your back, hands are down. And when I was doing A and B, I quite liked the look of the IFBB and thought I wouldn't mind trying that where you just pose the same and you're all judged the same way. But then having done it and having a lot less stage time as well and almost feeling rushed, I thought, okay, I really liked the way ANB allowed freedom, fluidity, creativity, all of those things. And then that's what's kind of led me to FMG now. It's like the perfect in between of everything I ever wanted.
Yeah, I love that you got the experience through different federations though, and you can kind of pinpoint what you love about others and maybe the things that you don't love as well to really figure out where you belong. What advice would you give to new competitors deciding what federation they want to compete in and potentially looking at switching federations?
So for me, with the IFBB, when I was towards the tail end of my ANB career, I should say it's not really a career. I turned pro and won one show. Like that's where it ended. But when I was sort of coming to the end of that, people would say to me, so we're 2019 at this point, people would say, you would suit IFBB, like you've got the shape for it. And at that time, I did. But when I actually competed in 22, the caliber of the amateurs had just gone so much better. So by that point, I was, third, fourth, fourth or fifth place, I should say. I wasn't at that level anymore. So I think for me, it's like I would say understand that especially the Australian athletes are just elite, like they're just incredible. So everybody works hard. So you have to be prepared to work harder to do well. But in terms of picking a federation that suits you, a lot of coaches will say, what do you want to do, and go towards the show you gravitate to. But for me, I have gone towards a show that I felt my body would have suited best. And I do feel like FMG is going to be that for me as well. But, what I would say maybe a couple of years ago, I would have said, what's your body look like and what are the winners looking like, and do you look like that, and maybe that's the show you should enter.
Yeah.
But then that would be something but then you've also got sometimes you've got your tested feds and your non-tested feds as well. So some people don't want to go up against people who are potentially using stuff, and so they would gravitate towards the natural shows, and then it's just a case of finding a show that you resonate with the most, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a lot to consider when you're choosing a federation. So now you're prepping for the upcoming FMG show in October, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your goals for the show and how is your prep different this time around?
um this prep is not too dissimilar from my A and B prep, in that my calories went super high in the off season, and the training is quite similar, and the coach's approach is quite similar. The posing though is completely different, and the costume design is completely different as well. So yeah, I'm actually really excited to get on stage, but at the same time, all of that posing isn't really me. So what I always say to like my athletes, for example, is I always think about Beyonce and how she's got her alter ego, Sasha Fierce. And so when you're learning to pose and you've got your fake tan on, and some people wear extensions and you've got your makeup, ultimately you're somebody else for that day. So you can put on this like facade and be somebody else, and it's like with the pageantry or the shows that I would do as a child. You become a character. So I'm excited to become that character. Like I'm looking at Tani and going, I want to be like that. I'm not saying like, obviously it would be nice to win. I'm not expecting anywhere near that, but it would just be nice to look like I belong. That's what I kind of want.
Yeah, amazing. And do you feel like doing pageants and that when you were younger kind of helped you with the transition into FMG?
I'd say yes. I say what it also taught me was the importance of a coach. I didn't get a coach for pageantry, and I always came like second off. Like I was never the winner. And as soon as I got a coach with something, that's when I started winning things. So I think it just highlighted the importance of, getting people around you and know what they're doing and can help you through that process. But it also helped me like overcome stage fright a little bit, because you have that experience of being on stage in front of strangers staring at you and judging you on what you look like, which is essentially what you're doing in a bikini. So yeah, it set me up in that sense.
Yeah, I think stage fright and nerves before getting on stage is a massive issue and it's super common for new competitors. Do you have any tips for someone who's dealing with nerves on show day?
So in 2012 or something, one of the girls in one of the Miss England qualifiers said to me, "Say shit when you're trying to smile and your teeth are clattering because you're so nervous. Just say shit, 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 and it actually makes you smile, and you almost stop the chattering." So that was one tip that I've taken with me. And eventually, once you've been on stage once or twice in the day, your nerves sort of go away anyway. But that was just one tip that kept a smile on my face as well.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to be watching you on stage now, just imagining you saying that and probably doing it myself because I still get nervous as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I worry that I'm going to be singing along to the songs because the FMG songs are like proper hits. So I feel
Yeah.
like I'm going to be like, and I need to just compose myself, and there'll be a mixture of shit and singing.
Yeah, they do play some bangers sometimes.
Yeah.
So you own Koko Australia Stage Wear, and when starting out, you took a really innovative approach by upcycling existing bikinis into theme wear. Can you explain more about this process and your journey into bikini design?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really noticed was the cost of costumes. I now understand why they're so expensive because of the work that goes into them. But at the time, I probably didn't have a big enough appreciation for it. And I had a creative background, so I wanted to kind of do something myself. I found that a lot of competitors already had costumes that fitted them well and they really, really loved. And they perhaps wore it for their bikini or their fitness category. And then they were entering theme wear in another show. So rather than replacing an entire theme wear costume, they would come to me and have things added on, like, wrist things or capes or whatever it was, or wings or whatever. And that's kind of how it started, in terms of like servicing other people. It was just like, I did this blog years and years ago, and part of it was researching what happens with textile waste. And it says some of your clothes go to charities, some go to people who don't have clothes and get shipped off overseas, some gets used as like stuffing for toy animal like teddy bears and things, and then the rest just goes in landfill, and it makes up such a huge part of our landfill. And I hated the idea of that. So I really wanted to like, try and bring some of that into a product or a service based business and offer that for other people. And that's why I reached out to you, because I love your concept with the comp closet. It is like perfection. It's amazing. It's such a good idea. You've got the costs of competing and these costumes which deserve more than one time on stage, and you've got this platform now that allows people to get away from Facebook Marketplace with all the creepos looking at you in a bikini, and has a really good, really easy to use platform. People can just search and find whatever they need for their show day. So hats off to you.
I appreciate those kind words about the comp closet. It is very exciting, and I'm so happy about how many people have jumped on board as well. I'm keen to dive a bit more into the sustainability aspect of competing and bikinis and reusing them because, yeah, like you said, like most of them just get worn once and end up in landfill. And if you think about how much like plastic is in all those rhinestones and everything that's on the bikinis, it's absolutely insane and quite sad to think that they only get worn once and then, either sit in the closet or go in the bin. So, how can competitors think more about sustainability when they choose their stage wear?
Yeah, I think don't be afraid to either like properly clean it and sell it on. You've also got options to like I like to transform costumes. So if somebody's got a suit that they already say they might buy one off the comp closet, and it's, oh yeah, I know Sarah wore that last season. I don't want to wear the same one, but I really like that suit. And then they could add gems or add different colors to the stage wear to transform it, but keep the style roughly the same. Yeah, I think I'd probably start with those kinds of things. Um,
Yeah.
and then using it again for theme wear. And you can make the theme wear completely different every time with the same costume, completely transform it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have had a few people purchasing like the cheaper kind of range of bikinis on the comp closet. Some of them are going for as cheap as $300, which is absolutely insane, and purchasing those to upcycle them and either turn them into theme wear or make little changes and rewear them on stage. So I'm really excited to see some of those visions come to life.
Amazing.
What's your long-term vision for Koko Australia
Oh
Stage
my
Wear?
God. I actually don't know. This is the thing. Like, it didn't start as a business. It just started as helping people, because I made my own theme wear and then it won. And then people would say to me like, "Oh, where did you get that from?" And I was like, "I made it." I had this whip thing because I was a ringleader, and I had like this whip or a lion tamer. I don't even know what it was. I had a hat and I loved it. And I just found bits of, it's so gross. I found things like on the floor, like discarded, like outside factories, and I was like, "Oh, that would make a nice cane," and then I'd transform. Like, it was so random. And just taking like existing bras and just like, "Oh, what can I make with this?" So it just started really, really organically, and then it was just in COVID, like 2020 into 2021, that it kind of exploded. Like, all the Queensland shows, I think it was still going on. Like Melbourne, we were shut down, but everywhere else was like all right. So people were just coming out of the blue, out of nowhere. I don't even know how they found me. And then from there, it's just kind of, all right, this is actually turning into something. So I, I think I need to set goals around this. And I was working with a coach last year for it. But I'm in this weird situation where I am a lawyer, but I do that. I'm sort of going back to what you were asking before as well. Like, I said, I've got 27 hours in every day. I work evenings, weekends, lunch breaks, public holidays. I compress my hours so I get every other Friday off as well. So I make the time to make the costumes, and I want to eventually like go part time, but I don't know why. I think I want to live. I think I want both, the best of both worlds, and I just want to do both really well. But it's actually quite scary to say that out loud, so I haven't really done that until now.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I'm excited to see, what you end up doing with that and what you keep creating, because you have created some really incredible pieces from what I've seen on Instagram and people wearing.
Thank you.
So, given your experience with pre-loved stagewear, what are some essential tips that you could share about buying pre-loved bikinis and theme wear?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wouldn't just buy any old costume just because you like the way it looked on somebody. I would be thinking about what colors I like usually and what I usually wear, and styles that suit me. And just, you might see a costume on somebody and think, "Oh, it looks great on them. It'll look great on me," and then the color's completely off. So I think just making sure you've got the right color for your skin and your hair and those kinds of things. And then also making sure with the sizing. Usually, costumes can be altered. There's usually a bit of leeway on the connectors or the hips, and the necks and things like that. So you take the tape measure and figure out your sizing and make sure you're liaising with the person who's selling and getting the right size. But don't be afraid if it's not quite right, because there are things you can do to make it work. So I think it's not crucial if it's not the perfect size to begin with. Bras probably a bit more important. You can have a bigger bra, but I would never go smaller than your size. It's definitely a bit more important there. But with the pants, you can usually have a bit of wiggle room there. And so it's definitely a lot cheaper to have it altered than it is to buy a whole costume all over again.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree with that. I bought both of my bikinis for my two shows this year secondhand, and the main thing that I made sure was that the cup size was kind of similar, and then the rest I know that I can either get adjusted or it's already adjustable anyways. Like most of them have adjustable straps, so yeah, I think the cup size is the main thing to get right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, that's something as well we've been introducing is the adjustables, like especially when we've got Queensland, like being in Melbourne, you get the sizes and you try and get them as correct as possible. But as you all know, in the last week or two, you can drop 2 or 3 kilos out of nowhere, and you weren't supposed to. You just have. So sometimes we'll put little adjusters on, to allow for that as well, so you can fit most sizes.
yeah, definitely. So you've mentioned goal setting a few times throughout this episode. How do you set and track your goals, both competitively and in business, especially when you're so busy?
I have a bucket list book, and I tend to fill it out a few times a year, and I'll write the date that I put it in. and it's got like a section where you can say what you're going to achieve. So there's that is one way. I'm a bit chaotic. I'm 1,000 miles an hour, so I always have 70 notebooks on the go and to-do lists everywhere. But part of the goal setting as well is um, like I used to use Trello, and I'd have like if I have an idea for a product that comes from a pain point from competing, I'll be like, okay. So say for example in 2019, I was getting my comp tan done, and you're in your oversized boyfriend jumper, and you look like homeless a little bit. So I was like, pain point. Why don't I create some stylish post tan jumpsuits? So then I did. So then part of developing that product is a Trello board, and like, all right, by 8 months time, I want to have a product sample or 5 product samples done. I'm going to set my Trello board out with dates and that kind of thing. So there's that as well. And then I like to I feel like I just talk a lot, sorry. I like to also use vision boards. So you can't really track your return on investment there too well, except for like annual I have like these annual catch-ups with friends where we do vision board planning, and then we go back the next year and go, what did we do off that? So that's like quite a nice visual way of tracking, I suppose. And I just find having that there and like having it above your bed or wherever it is, you're looking at it every single day, you almost start to visualize it. Didn't work for me in the IFBB because I had a pro card on there and it didn't work, but I got everything else. No, it didn't. But but yeah, so that they're probably my top 3 goal setting things that I do. What do you do?
Yeah, for me, I think the first step is just writing it down. So the same as you, like if I have a goal or an idea, it's writing it down and then trying to put some kind of date or time frame to it. If I can't figure out a time frame, then I'll talk to someone who knows more about that specific topic or product or whatever it is. If it's competing, talk to a coach or a pro or someone that you know who competes. And then once you have a date and the goal written down, then I just kind of break it down into smaller steps to actually achieve it. I think those smaller steps are super important. Otherwise it looks like this big scary unachievable goal, and I think having little wins that you can tick off to see that you're making progress really helps me personally.
Yeah, that's a really good. That's because when you look at a big goal, you think, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that, and then breaking it down makes you go, oh, actually, I can do that today, and then that next week, and then by the 6 weeks, you've done it all, and you're like, wow, I'm Superwoman.
Yeah, exactly. I think when you break it down and have those little wins, you just like build that confidence within yourself that actually I can achieve things, which is super helpful. Have you ever struggled with like not achieving your a goal? Is there a goal that you've set that you haven't achieved, and kind of how did you navigate that?
I actually didn't know I was a goal setter until I started competing. So yeah, I think it's not a new concept for me, but it's like, oh wow, you set your goals and you can actually achieve them. This is amazing. I suppose, like just touching on what I said then about the IFBB, this is probably the first thing that comes to mind is I had it in my head that I wanted a pro card, but my issue was I never had a good enough reason why. It was just I just wanted it because I've been a pro in another federation. Why shouldn't I be in this one? And it wasn't, I didn't have a good enough why. It wasn't, I want to represent the brand and I do everything it stands for. And, I want to be on the pro, compete international. There wasn't a good why. So I didn't achieve it. So I think for me, it's just, and there's a really good book called Start With Why, which I'd probably encourage you to read if you haven't already read it. You've probably read every single book.
I haven't read that book, but I actually have it and I'm like planning to read it after I finish my current book.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, no, it's really all of those. I love all the self-help books. But that's a good one. It kind of reminds me, all right, if you've got a good why, then you can achieve something because you've got the good basis. It's like a true foundation. So I think that's probably what I learned from that. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And do you have any tips to figure out like what your why is? Because I know sometimes personally I have a goal, but I'm not really sure why I want to achieve that.
Yeah. I think like maybe find yourself alone in a room with nobody around you and with a piece of paper that no one's ever going to see. and take your ego out of it and just really try and figure out what is my drive. Like, it can be anything. It can be, I want to get on stage and I want to win because I want to beat that person, whatever it is. But as long as you, like, nobody's ever going to see this. Why? You are. So yeah, be honest with yourself. And so I think that would probably help. And probably I should have done that myself. Um, yeah, I'd probably do something like that.
Yeah, I love that. And what goals did you set for yourself when you first started competing? Like, did you start with smaller goals or did you kind of set your sights on something big?
Um, I had a partner at the time, and he had said, I was like, I really want to do this show. Like, I've watched my coach do it, and what do you think? Like, looking for some support. And he said, I think you really struggle with the food part. So I was like, well, I'll show you. So then I was like, okay, I'm not going to struggle with the food because I'm going to show you. So I think I was like, that was like my goal then, was to, like, not, the food is going to be the easiest part for me, because I like it when people tell me I can't do things, because I like to be like, oh, maybe I can, or why don't I try and see if I can? So from that moment, literally the food became the easiest part. And your friends, you'll probably experience it, not everybody understands why we do the things we do, this controlled starvation. And for me, the food was just easy. It was like, oh, I'm just not going to eat it. Like, yes, I'll sniff your pizza, and yes, I will ask if I can sniff your cake, but I'm not going to eat it. And sometimes anyway, the smell smells better than the taste. So I can have a pizza in 6 months if I really want, but right now I don't need it.
Yeah, that's so true. I sometimes have a sniff of people's food as well. So I
Oh,
think that's quite
yeah.
normal on prep.
It's so weird. It's so normal.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who wants to compete, but they have been told, you're going to struggle with food or you're going to struggle with hunger or you're not going to be able to do all the cardio? What advice would you give someone who is getting doubts from other people about their decision?
Don't listen to the haters. Usually, when people, I know this because I've done it myself, I will hold my hand up. Usually, when people are saying that to you, it's because they could never possibly do it themselves. So they want you to come to their level. So they're like, they're here, happy with a mediocre life, just doing normal shit. And you want to do this, which is like a real challenge, and they could never do it. So they're like, oh no, I think you'd struggle. I think you wouldn't be able to do it. I don't think you should do it. You're going to be orange. Why would you want to starve yourself? Come back down here with me. So I'd be like, no, watch me, watch me. So I think just like block up. Like, sometimes it does come from a place of concern or love. Bodybuilding isn't always the healthiest thing to do. It's not long term. It's not sustainable. We're not supposed to look like that all year round. But I think, so sometimes, yeah, it does come from a place of concern. But if you've got, again, going back to your why, a strong enough why, maybe you've got a fitness goal and this is highlighting the achievement for you, just getting on stage and showing it off, then just do what's right for you. Like, don't worry about anyone else, because you will gravitate towards people that are similar to you, and you'll pick up, will connect over similar things. And yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you do make so many friends and connections throughout your journey anyway. So like if you lose maybe one friend or someone who's not supportive of your journey and your goals, then it doesn't matter. Like you're going to meet so many more like-minded people when you're competing. So yeah, I really love that advice. For those of yeah, for those listeners who are interested in following your journey or seeking your expertise in bikini design, where can they connect with you online?
So my personal account is the bodybuilding lawyer. And then my side hustle is Koko Australia _stage wear.
Amazing. I will link those down below as well so people can check them out. Any final words of wisdom or encouragement that you'd like to share with our listeners who might be balancing multiple passions like you?
Um, I would say you you'll be surprised what you can achieve when you put your mind to it. You might think a lot of people can't do a lot of things, but you might think you're one of those people. But once you've done it and once you've achieved all these things, in one go, you'll be so amazed at what you can do, and you'll be like, "Ha! maybe I can do that again next year or something similar, or whatever it is in your life. David Goggins has a really good book called Callous the Mind, and I think taking on 70,000 things in one go really calluses the mind and sets you up to be able to achieve so many things, where a normal day might seem like a breeze in the park. Whereas, yeah, I think that's probably what I'd suggest, is just keep callousing that mind.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm very inspired by everything that you do. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I cannot wait to see the package that you bring to the Gold Coast show.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
And thank you to our listeners as well. If you could take a minute to follow, rate, and share this podcast, I would be so grateful. It really does help us to grow and get more incredible guests on. And if you could let us know what you're doing while you're listening to this, like if you're on prep, if you're doing cardio, doing steps, I love to see it. So thank you so much for listening.